20 minutes in front of 10 o'clock on a Monday, and as promised, we would like to welcome Rachel Blythe Kodanaz to the morning show. Hi, Rachel.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, our pleasure. Believe me, our pleasure. And I saw the information on your book, Living with Loss One Day at a Time, and I thought to myself, well, you know what? If any conversation could help somebody out, this is probably one of the definite ones because, let's face it, almost everybody listening has, at one time or another, lost someone or something that they really cared for deeply.
Or will.
Or
if they haven't yet.
Yeah, or will. I know a couple of years ago, lost a sister to cancer. My wife is going through an episode now. Her mom is, slowly passing away, and it's something nobody enjoys, but it's part of life.
Correct. I agree.
So tell us, what's your experience? How did you come around to writing this book, Living with Loss One Day at a Time?
Well, I need to start by saying that I was actually a Fortune 100 management, information technology. That was my profession. Before, that's where the path that I was going, breaking the glass ceiling, etc. And then in 1992, my husband walked out of work at 32 years old, and he just dropped of arrhythmia in the parking lot. And I've spent the last 21 years since he passed. Our daughter was 2 at the time, raising her and switching my career to one that was more of a corporate to more and more of helping those that experienced a loss. And so years ago, for years I've been working with thousands of people, widows and other people, on running support groups and facilitating. And one day, about a year ago, I said, okay, I'm going to bring this to fruition. And I was going my thoughts that I've been working on for years, and I was going to write a book, and it came out to be Living with Loss One Day at a Time.
Now, when somebody loses somebody, it's not something, people say get over it, okay, it's over, grieve, and that's it. What kind of advice is that?
Well, for me, it's not. For other people that might be listening might say that that's what they need to do. But for me, and my personal opinion and how I've handled it, is that you don't ever get over it. I lost my husband when I was 31 years old. My daughter lost her daddy. Yes, I'm remarried, and yes, I have a happy household, but that goes with you forever. When you lose your grandmother, your part of your grandmother goes with you forever. So you don't get over it. I think what you need to do in a better way of society to deal with it is that everybody goes through loss differently. Everybody accepts it or deals with it in a different way. And the real answer to that is you don't get over it. You incorporate it in your current life. Mm-hmm.
And particularly, I think with maybe people that are older or suffering, you always, whether you go to a funeral or you know the person, you're always at a loss, or you just don't know what to say. He's in a better place or something like that. Does that offer any emotional satisfaction for the person that just lost that person?
Well, if you're not religious and you're not spiritual and you don't believe in that, then no, that doesn't. Because even if somebody's suffering in a better place, he's in a different place possibly. But what I've learned over the years of talking to people get the grievers, the survivors, often feel that people that even their friends and their closest, neighbors and family members say things, and they wonder why did they say those. But what I try to do in my presentations and even in my book is to talk about there's really no malice with people. They just don't know what to do and don't know what to say, so they just say stuff. And if it's at the wrong time for you, it's going to be taken wrong.
Do you ever think that people often avoid somebody that's recently lost somebody because of the awkwardness or that they don't know what to say?
Yes, most definitely. When I returned to work, I took a month off. I was in, like I said, Fortune 100 company when my husband passed away. And when I came back to work, everybody avoided me because they really did not know what to say. And the best way of handling this situation for others or survivors are to run away. And I would do a lot of work in grief in the workplace, and that's one of the things that I key in on when I help coworkers, is to always acknowledge the loss prior to the employee returning to work. So that way when I come back to work, I can say to somebody, oh, thank you for dropping off dinner, or I really appreciate the donation you made, or I appreciate the flowers you sent. So that awkwardness goes away.
Mm-hmm. What is the first thing a person should do when losing a loved one?
Well, you're in shock. So when I hesitated a little bit when you asked that question because there really isn't the first thing to do. In the book I talk about, because every day, we haven't quite talked about the book yet, but there's different, 365 thoughts. And one of the things that I say is to find somebody to think for you. I remember when my husband passed away, I was in the hospital. That's where I went. This is prior to cell phones, so you can just try to imagine what the situation was. And I couldn't think. I was holding my 2-year-old baby, and these doctors were talking to me, and I remember screaming on the top of my lungs, get somebody to think for me. So if I were to offer one piece of advice of what someone should do immediately is to find somebody to think for you.
Now, the book is Living with Loss One Day at a Time, and as you mentioned, you do have, it's basically a year's worth of helpful advice here for somebody who's lost somebody. What made you decide to put it in that form?
Well, it's a year. This is a lot of thought put into this. It's a year's worth of advice, but it's not the first year. It's not the second year. It could be the 5th year. It could be the 10th year. It's just 365 thoughts and lessons in grief. There's no start. There's no beginning. It's not January to December. The thought is you could jump around. You can read it one day at a time. You could read a couple of days if that's what you choose to do. I even have people that have bought them for their kids, and what they do is they're using it as somewhat of call it a diary or a journal, and then it helps the parents talk to their kids by each day having a different topic to talk about. Sometimes the conversation will go big, sometimes it won't, but what made me put it in this format is working with a lot of widows over my time and other grievers. I did loss of a parent workshops, etc. I found that there was a lot of stories out there. There were a lot of memoirs out there, but there weren't just helpful daily, just things to think about. It's very matter of fact. It's very practical. It's not preachy. It's just making you think, as a griever, think out of the box a little bit and just to try to get life. There's a lot of life left.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've obviously talking to various groups about this topic. What are some of the most common things people bring up?
A lot of it is family members, what happens within family member, within there's a loss within a family, the dysfunctionality that occurs, how sad it is, and I really like to talk to that because I think what happens is people communicate differently and everybody grieves differently. And I have 4 sisters, and when my mom died, it was apparent to me of the difference of all 5 of us, yet we thought we were so similar, how we all took mom's death differently. And so that's the number one thing that I like to share when I do presentations is people, I said it earlier, people are not malicious or they don't have malice, but when we're grieving and we're really hurting, we think people say harsh things to us or they don't understand or they don't care. They just don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, you notice a difference of different ways you grieve. Are there, a lot of people put grieving into different categories or whatever. Some people, when they lose someone, they try to completely ignore it. They're maybe they're flippant about it or they don't want to reference it at all. Is that healthy?
For me, it's not, because I think that, and in the book I talk about it many days, is talk about your loved one. I'm doing a talk show with my daughter, who's now 23 years old, is a question they want to ask her. What we're talking about is, what is it that she has done, or we have done as a family, to keep the memory of her dad and my deceased husband alive? I think that's talking about it for 21 years, wouldn't you? I mean, I just think it's important. We talk about Grandma and how great her food was. Why don't we talk about if there's a sudden death or a random death that wasn't when it was supposed to be, was earlier than it was supposed to be? So I say talk about it, talk about it, talk about it.
The book is Living with Loss One Day at a Time. Rachel Blythe Kodanaz. It's on Fulcrum Books. You can go to fulcrumbooks.com to find out more. Do you have a place where people can go, a website or anything?
I do. It's Rachel Kodanaz, and it's RachelKodanaz.com. And the book, of course, is on available on all online bookstores as well.
And folks, you can get it at Fireside Books and Gifts in Town here. They can order it for you. Living with Loss One Day at a Time. Rachel, thank you very much for joining us on the WBKV Morning Show.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yep. Bye-bye.